Hey guys, Cody Bertrand here from Cody B Fishing, and today we've got a pretty exciting episode. So a couple of days ago, I got to take a road trip down to the PH Custom Lures headquarters and meet with Phil Hunt, who started PH Custom Lures, and I got to pick his brain a little bit about how they got started, what got him into bait making, and we are going to get to see his shop, what the baits go through from start to finish, and what he does to make them so unique from other crankbaits and make his balsa baits set them apart from a lot of other baits alike on the market. So that's going to be what goes on in this episode. We're going to see a little bit, like I said, about the shop. We're going to interview Phil, and I hope you guys enjoy it because this has been something I've wanted to do for quite a while, and it's going to be a really good episode. So stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoy. Hey guys, Cody Bertrand here with Phil Hunt from PH Custom Lures, and just wanted to kind of pick his brain a little bit about how all this started, what made him start it, what got him into, you know, making baits, making balsa baits and all that. So I'd like to ask you a little bit about, you know, what you like doing, how you got into it, and yeah, just pretty much how we got to this point.
Yeah, well, getting to this point was an accident. I never ever considered making a balsa bait or even selling one. I always fished, and to be honest, I've always been I've always really liked, like jig fishing and flipping and worm fishing, and really liked offshore fishing in the summer. But at the same token, I've always been fascinated with balsa baits since I was a little boy. And I remember seeing the advertisements in the old Bassmasters, the B1s and the B2s, and some of my earliest memories was of like fishing balsa baits was I've got an aunt, my aunt Margie, my Uncle Jim, who passed away, lived over in Franklin, Ohio. They used to go out to a little place here called Manlow Park, and they had a camper and they had a pontoon boat out there. Well, we always grew up fishing with Dad, and my uncles fished, my whole family fished. But I remember the earliest I remember seeing one is, I might have been, I'm 53 now, so it might have been 40 years ago or longer. I remember fishing out there, and there was a man and a woman had a pontoon boat, and they would go out every morning and they would fish around the aerators, and they used to throw these old B1 Bagleys. So this would have been like in the mid 70s maybe. And I was always fascinated by those Bagleys, and that lady would stand up on the front of her boat and she'd catch them on those old Bagleys. So my whole life I've always really been a big fan of balsa baits. And I threw other crankbaits, backwards bombers, and mud bugs were big when we were kids, and even the old head and tiny tads. We grew up on the river. We would wade the river and we would fish with those old head and tiny tads and catch those smallies and rock bass in the river. But I was always a huge balsa bait fan, and always a big fan of flat baits in the spring. And I won a BFL in the Ohio River on one of Rick Shriver's laser lures, his LZ1, which is an awesome flat balsa bait. And the water was cold then early in the year, and so I kind of got into. I was a paramedic, and I was getting burned out on that, and I kind of got into like doing repaints. Bill Owen and I would piddle around in the shop at night, and I was doing repaints for a lot of guys, a lot of the pros, and I found myself overwhelmed pretty quick. I couldn't keep up, and we talked about it a lot. And I would go over to Rick Shriver's shop, and I'd sit around and visit with him, and when he was building his baits, and honestly never ever give it any thought of ever making one. And then one day Billy, he's over here and he's like, man, we need to make us a balsa square bill. We need a balsa square bill, he kept saying. So nobody has one like we got, and I've always fished tourneys and stuff. And so we got to just playing around with balsa, and we were just buying like hobby balsa at the shop. And there's a guy named Adam down at Jeffersonville, Indiana, or not Jeffersonville, I'm sorry, down at Evansville, worked in a shop, and he sent me this old bait one time, and he deserves a lot of credit for how this come about. He sent me this old bait one time, and it kind of looked like a Bayou Boogie, but it had this Pac-Man shaped mouth, and he wanted me to repaint it. And it was a crankbait that him or somebody had been playing around with, and they never could get it to work right. Well, I repainted it for him, and I never thought much about it. And then Lowen was over at my house, and we were eating, and I have this thing from Bass Pro. It's like a fixture. And am I getting too windy here?
No, you're good.
And it was like, it's just like a fixture you hang on the wall. It had like a net, and it had a place for like kids' pictures, and it had some old fake fishing lures on it. Well, there's this one hanging there that's just like this bait that I got from Adam. And I used to do a lot of repaints for Adam. He's a great guy. And Billy and I both looked at it and we're like, oh, topwater bait. So we come out here and cut one out and made it. And it's called the Crazy Ace. And it was the first bait that I really built that I thought was really worked good. So we did this Crazy Ace. You can get on my website and see it at PH Custom Lures. And they were so impressed with it, some of the writers at Bassmasters. Pete Robbins got a hold of it, and he's like, dude, that's a Bassmaster article. There's nothing even remotely like it out there. So the Crazy Ace, I don't even have one here, I don't think, to show you. There's not one even hanging here without going and getting one off the shelf. But I did this bait, and it's got a Pac-Man mouth. It's a flat bait. Got a prop on the back. Yeah, here's one right here.
Right there.
This is not a color that I offer. I did this for one of the pros, and I made a spare. But this is it right here. And the wire's loose. It has an aluminum tube through it, and the wire goes all the way through. And what this one does, we played with the weight, and Bill and I, we made it and messed with it. And there's all kinds of issues with clear coat in the mouth, because it's anyway, anybody that builds baits will know what I'm talking about. But we finally got this thing so it works right, and it just really, when you twitch it, it jumps and darts, kind of dives a little. It's probably the most erratic thing out, one of the most erratic top baits and top water baits. And I don't think, to my knowledge, there's any prop bait like it. Well, Bassmasters did this article, and next thing you know, I got a real problem. I'm like overwhelmed with bait orders. I can't keep up. I can't sleep. I'm spending all my time out here in the shop, and I just fell in love with it. I thought it was so cool to make something and then actually go catch a fish on it. So as time went on, I was building them all, cutting them out with a bandsaw, and actually shaping them with fingernail files, and I was shaping them with a router table. Cool. And they would catch and jump out and scare the heck out of me. You know, I was always afraid I was going to cut my fingers off. And then as time went on, one of my buddies, he's like really interested in this, and he wanted to be a part of it. So I got to know Lee Sisson really well, and most of you guys know who Lee is. He actually worked with Jim Bagley's for years, and I don't know how many different companies Lee's been involved with, as well as his own. So I went down there, and we bought his machines, all of his equipment, and he started coming up and deer hunting with me. And when he would come up and deer hunt with me, Lee would start teaching me things in the shop, and I learned all this stuff that Lee learned over 40 years in the bait business. I got this wealth of knowledge on speed dial, and Lee is one of my close friends. I don't talk to him as much as I should because I'm busy. He's fishing, but you know, we still talk, and when I got an issue, Lee's the guy I call and go to. So I'm no longer a paramedic. This grew to the point where I could just walk out one day, no pension, no nothing. I mean, I just walk out, give up my career, and so far it's the best thing ever happened to me. I get to sleep all night, no more getting out of bed all night long, taking care of people that are sick or hurt. And I come to work every morning. I've got a great bunch of guys that work for me. And I can honestly say that I never get up and I think, man, I don't want to go to work today, because I always like coming out here and playing. And, you know, I get to play around and paint. I do all the painting. The guys do most everything else. So I design the new baits. I paint. So I don't know what else to say, except I'm really blessed.
And your house is right back there.
And my house is right over here. Yeah.
Your house is really right back there.
Yeah, so we needed a test tank. So now we got an in-ground pool.
There you go.
You know, to tune baits in and stuff. So, and yeah, I'm just excited every day to know where it's going, because it seems like that every year the business has doubled. And I've had, like, normally this time of year, everybody in the bait business will tell you it can be rough, because you're trying to come up with money to buy it, to build inventory. You're still paying your help. Sales are down. But this year I can honestly say that, like, I've had the best October, November by leaps and bounds that I've ever had. Things are going, so I'm to the point now where I'm actually starting to make a little bit of money. I'm able to pay all my guys on time. They're all happy. So PH Custom Lures is little, but it's feeding about 4 or 5 families total, counting the part-timers. And we've got a lot of new baits coming out. I've got, I don't know, ideas just fly. I wake up in the middle of the night with ideas, and I know this is dumb, but I'll have a dream, or I'll have this idea, and I'll come out here and write it down and draw it before I forget. So
that's awesome.
I've got all this stuff, all these things that I want to do, you know, the next few years. So
that's awesome. Well, there you guys have it. That's how we got started and how we are here now today. So I appreciate you talking to me for a day, and yeah, be sure to check these guys out for sure. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, and let me tell you, if you really, really like to fish and hunt, don't get in the fishing industry, because I get every phone call I get's about fishing. Everything I do all day, every day is about fishing, but I fish about half as much as I did before this started. So if you really want to be on the water all the time, you better get you a day job so you got time to fish.
Yeah.
So
well, I appreciate it, Phil.
Hey, nice talking to you, Cody.
Man. Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed getting to see a little behind-the-scenes look at PH and how they got started, and what everything what goes on there at PH. So there's definitely going to be some more videos coming up. I'm going to do, me and Phil filmed a couple different videos on the actual building process of a bait, and that'll probably be my next episode. So stay tuned for that, and I'll have all of PH's, the website linked in my description, so you guys can go check them out and get you a few balsa baits. Thanks, guys.